Holy City Center Radio, it is episode 93, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, March 6th, 2023. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and man, how could you not? Weather was incredible. Really can't beat, how it's been here at the end of February, now beginning of March. A couple overcast days and some rain and things here and there, but man, these like 70, 80-degree days, when, other parts of the country are just being blanketed in snow and cold, tough to beat, tough to beat. My parents would certainly agree with that statement. They were here and were raving about how wonderful the weather's been, while a couple times providing me on updates of the weather back home in Connecticut. And yeah, I don't think they missed that at all. They certainly were enjoying the weather here. Unfortunately for me, they are back in Connecticut. It was an awesome visit that I had with them. As I mentioned in the last few episodes, they were here for my recent birthday and they stayed for a little while surrounding that day. And so it was great having them here, being able to just hang out with them every night and go out to eat and, do some other things. Always awesome when family is in town. And yeah, I've definitely already missing them and looking forward to the next time I could see them again. Over the last days, we didn't do anything too out there, too exciting. Just went out to dinner a couple more times since the last episode. Went out to the Lowdown, which is on Folly Road on James Island. They always really enjoy that place, so they like to usually get there, at least once a visit when they're here. It has a nice outdoor area, so they can bring their dog as well. So yeah. Um, we went there. Then we also went to the Codfather in North Charleston. They had been there once before, but it had been a while. So we went there. Same thing. Sat out in the kind of like patio area. So we had their dog with us, and Codfather. You all probably are familiar with it by now. They have like four menu items basically, and they do a great job with all of them. And obviously they're famous for their fish and chips. So we all enjoyed that. Not a lot of variety on the menu or in our order, so there isn't too much to say. Always good food. Lowdown is also pretty good as well. So yeah, we had some good some good restaurant choices this time around. I mean, it's hard not to in the city, but every once in a while we'll try something new that we're all like, whatever. But we got to some old favorites, and they got to try a couple new restaurants that they hadn't been to before, so that was a lot of fun as well. And yeah, like I said, great visit. Very sad that they're not here. My place seems so empty now without them here, and their dog laying on the couch next to me. My cat is excited though because he's got his house back. He's a little afraid of the dog, so he would hide upstairs in my bedroom for most of the day and kind of slink around when he did come downstairs, trying to avoid her. So he's happy, that's for sure. After they left, they left on this past weekend, and after doing lots of website work, as always, I went to go see a comedy show. I've been to a bunch already this year, and I just love stand-up comedy, and I'm catching some comedians I've been wanting to see, and one of them is Nikki Glazer. I hadn't seen her live before. She's been in town or in the area a few times in the past, so was able to go this time. Set was pretty good. She was funny, of course. New material, nothing. It's not like sometimes comedians will kind of rehash stuff, but usually after they have a special on TV or something, they come out with some new material. So it was all stuff I hadn't heard before, and it was good. And another fun twist to the show was that her opener wasn't a comedian. Usually the opener is another comedian, of course. But she brought out which she kept saying her best friend. So I will believe that that is true. Anya Marina, who is actually a singer songwriter, and has been on Nikki's various podcasts she's had over the years. And so I was familiar with her. And she's pretty funny in her own right. She's not a stand-up comedian, of course. So she wasn't up there, telling any risque or super complicated jokes or anything, but just little tiny laugh lines as she was introducing songs and talking, and it was pretty funny. And her voice is incredible. She's a great singer, and obviously that's her chosen profession, not comedy. So again, it was interesting to have her as an opener. But yeah, she was really really good. She played, a couple of original songs and then a cover of a Ti song, which I was has been in a TV show or movie or something. She had said, so you may have heard it before. But anyway, it was a really good show, and I had fun. It was a good night out to take my mind off the fact that my folks were gone. Came home after the show, and that was it. So quiet weekend. I hope you all enjoyed it, and also especially since wine and food was going on, all sorts of events around town. I hope you're able to get out to those and had fun. From everything I've seen and things I've gone to, it looks like it's been a success this year. I know there's some gripes about Culinary Village still, that the being out at Riverfront Park in North Charleston, there's some miscommunication about like a shuttle bus and lines and things like that. And Village is over multiple days, so the most people attend that event. So you tend to hear the most complaints about it. It's just one of those things, heavily attended event. Sometimes you're going to be dealing with lines and things, but other than those few gripes, it seems like everything went great, and another successful wine and food festivals in the books. And before we jump into the stories, just a quick reminder, you can still vote in Best of Charleston, although time is running out. Best of Charleston is the City Paper's annual awards, of course. You can go to bestof.charlestoncitypaper.com and vote for all your local favorites. Holy City Center is up in the Twitter, website, Instagram, and social media influencer categories. I would appreciate your votes. Thank you so much. And yes, voting's almost done, so you won't have to hear me talk about it anymore pretty soon here. All right. I was waiting for the day this was going to happen. And for the most part, the Murdoch trial, nothing crazy happened. When I recorded the same day as is one of the days of the trial, usually it wasn't anything wild that I missed out on. And I could recap in the next episode, and it didn't seem old or stale. It was still new information for people. So, but I was waiting for that day. And of course, it was the biggest day when the jury came back with their verdict in just about 3 hours. So I recorded the podcast and for Friday. On Thursday evening, early evening, like 3, 4. I was done before 5 p.m. I think, and the jurors came back. I think around 7:30. When I was recording, they were just starting their deliberations. So I thought, they may come back tonight, but it'll be late, and what people are going to understand that, of course. And I'm sure anybody who listened to the this past Friday's podcast where I didn't talk about the verdict, of course, I'm sure you're all fine with it and understand. But I was a little bummed because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest day of the trial, a huge story, and I wish I could have been, had some fresh information for you. But yes, as you are all very well aware now, Alec Murdoch was convicted of the double murders and all the charges that were related to the killing of his wife and one of his sons. And the jury came back with that verdict within 3 hours. My folks and I had come back from dinner, and I was seeing online that the jury had a verdict, and the announcement would be coming soon. And I was shocked because I thought there'd be some deliberation. When there's a murder trial where it's all circumstantial evidence. I figured there might be a couple people who held out, because of reasonable doubt. Oh, hey, I'm not sure. Let's talk about this. And they did take 3 hours, so who knows? But I just thought, there was a chance this could drag on for a little while, and I wouldn't have been surprised if we got a hung jury where people, they were just split. But no, once we heard that, of course, we were glued to the TV when all the news stations started covering it and ran it live. And when we were pretty sure they were going to come back with a guilty verdict. I didn't see this trial going towards acquittal. I just didn't. um I thought there was enough there that at least a few jurors were going to think he was guilty. And so, like I said, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a hung jury. I also wasn't surprised by him being convicted, or maybe a little, but not as surprised as I would have been with an acquittal. I just did not see that happening. So considering it was only 3 hours in, I was pretty confident it wasn't going to be a hung jury. So, but you never know, and we waited, and there it was, guilty on all counts. and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His lawyers have said they're going to appeal, which, is pretty standard stuff and was to be expected. So expect some more news on that, and we'll see what happens if it goes forward or not. But they vowed to go as high as the U.S. Supreme Court if they need to. So, you know, story's not totally done. And of course, there's still so many questions about what exactly happened and all the financial crimes and some of these older stories that we've heard about. This isn't going anywhere. We'll still be talking about this family and this trial for a long, long time. But for the time being, the trial is over. We'll have a little bit of a break from that. And Alec is now in a jail in Colombia. He's going to be in a maximum security prison. And he is, again, assuming nothing crazy happens when he appeals, he will be there the rest of his life. Even though a lot of people are tired with the trial and the coverage, it's been nearly impossible to not be inundated with it no matter what you were watching. And for some people, and myself included, even though I'm like, yeah, I know what happened, I've seen the trial, you get sucked into these like documentaries and things, and before you know, you're like, oh man, I watched that whole thing. But yeah, it's hard. If you're a fan of Dateline or 2020, those shows and some of the crimes they show, both episodes were dedicated to the Murdochs. So you couldn't avoid it there. Then 48 Hours on Saturday, the other two programs are on Friday. They also had an episode. Of course, local news is all over it, which is to be expected. And they've done an amazing job with this, from the start. You see, you couldn't avoid it there. It's online everywhere. People's opinions and articles, and major news outlets, national news outlets are covering it. And then even Saturday Night Live is making jokes about the trial. They had a couple that were in the episode as well. By the way, the Nikki Glazer Anya Marina show I was talking about before. Anya Marina made a little crack about the Murdochs at the beginning of her set. So it's like impossible to escape from it. And if you are still interested in the case and, love those shows, I believe all, the ones I mentioned, Dateline, 2020, 48 Hours, I'm sure they're streaming somewhere. And you can catch those if you did miss them. But for now, we'll have a little bit of a break, and we can move on to some of the other stories going on. We've been dominated by, these last, 6 weeks or so by this trial. So, I have nothing really else to add to it. Like I said, at this point, you're all probably well aware. I thought Judge Clifton Newman did a great job during the trial. A lot of people have said that as well. Um, and, he really dressed down Alec during sentencing. It was a pretty withering criticism, even when Alec was trying to, say he was still innocent. You know, um, Judge Newman said something like, maybe you are kind, sort of, I don't remember, exactly what he said, but something along the lines of, maybe you are innocent, but the pills made you a monster or something like that. Or maybe you're not a monster, but the pills made you one, and, stuff like that. Um, really just wasn't having it. And, he told him, I'm sure you see Maggie and Paul every night. And Alec responded, all day, every day. And he's like, yeah, I'm sure that'll continue. Obviously, Judge Newman's alluding to one thing, that, yeah, you're going to see them. They're going to haunt you because of what you did. And Alec, is claiming he's innocent. He sees them because he misses them. And, even though I've thought Alec did it and still do, uh, and it seems impossible, but I'm sure he did and still does love Maggie and Paul. And I do believe that sometimes his tears and, being down, wasn't all an act. I think they're real sometimes. Hopefully he regrets what he did. I don't see how he couldn't, but, um, it's a very complicated and weird story. He deserves the punishment. He deserves to, be confronted with their memories. But it's sad all around, for the two people lost and all the families that were affected from this, all the lies Alec is told and the financial crimes and all those people that were affected and everything that this family, was involved with is just, yeah, just a wild, wild story. And you take a step back from it. It's such a tragic story in so many ways. And, you kind of forget like the people behind it because you're just so wrapped up in is he going to be guilty, and it's on TV everywhere. It almost feels like a movie or something, but it's real life, and it's like I said, a very sad and tragic story. One, like I said, we still have a lot of questions about. So hopefully, we'll get some answers on some of those other crimes as we go forward. Speaking of sad news, unfortunately, the next story is going to continue that trend. Allison Smith, the founder and owner of Glazed Gourmet Doughnuts, the popular shop on King Street, died in an accident last week, a car accident, that is. According to the Charleston County Coroner's Office, Allison Smith, who was 34, died from injuries sustained in a two-vehicle collision off of Dorchester Road at I-26 on Thursday morning. Uh, the office said that Smith was struck by another vehicle that was driven by a 24-year-old man named Sasha Hampton. He was not wearing a seatbelt, according to the report. His vehicle struck Allison's, and then he ended up succumbing to his injuries as well. So, two tragic deaths from this car accident. The North Charleston Police Department is the investigating agency, so they're still looking at this. They haven't released any final report, who is to blame, but obviously, from the sound of it, uh, Hampton was the one that hit Allison, so maybe we'll get some details on what exactly happened. I believe I saw a report that he may have been speeding it up to 90 miles per hour, but outside of that, I don't know the details. How the collision occurred, but very very sad story. Smith and her husband Mark opened Glazed Gourmet at 481 King Street back in 2011. And it quickly became a popular destination between locals and visitors alike. I remember when it opened, people were super excited because we didn't really have any kind of specialty donut shops. I shouldn't say any donut shops. There was a couple in town, but this was right on King Street. It was a place that you could stop in the morning, grab coffee and donuts and whatever else. And it was just a cozy little spot. And they went on to earn accolades from, like Zagat, Thrillist, USA Today, and many more. Their donuts are incredible. Um, but, very sad, very, very sad that Allison Smith passed. In social media posts and a sign on the shop's door, they said that they will be closed until further notice. So we'll see if the business reopens and how they go forward without their founder. And obviously, thoughts and prayers and all those things go out to her family and friends. It was shocking to the community, even people who didn't know her personally. You feel like you know a little bit about people who own popular businesses in town because you go visit them and it's a part of your life, and you're thankful to the people who have created these places that you enjoy. And so you saw an outpouring of sorrow, of course, and support from the community. Um, again, just very, very sad. And, hopefully your husband and her family are doing okay. And, hopefully they'll get through this. Tough to transition out of that, but we move forward with the next story, which some of you might actually find good, as opposed to the last two stories of tragedy and sorrow. Uh, this involves legislation, and again, we're talking about legislation that people might like, which is rare that you might have some consensus on something. But air travelers at select airports in South Carolina may soon be able to enjoy a cocktail while sitting at the gate before boarding their flights. Now, you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute. People drink at airports all the time. What are you talking about? Well, when you get a drink at one of the bars in the airport, you're actually not supposed to leave that area with the drink. And you can't bring it to your gate and just hang out and drink there. For whatever reason, that's been a rule inside airports. And this would seek to, at least in South Carolina, remove that rule. In a near unanimous vote of 14-3, a Senate panel approved this proposal that would allow passengers to consume alcoholic beverages beyond security points while waiting to board their flights at gate terminals. The bill now heads to the floor. The measure comes one day after a Senate Judiciary Committee approved proposals that would legalize home delivery of alcoholic beverages, which you may remember me talking about in a previous episode. So this kind of went hand in hand with that. Travelers as I just mentioned, you can now buy alcoholic beverages at airport restaurants and bars, but state law requires that those drinks be consumed in the bar or restaurant. The business's alcohol permits don't allow for off-premises consumption of the drink, so that's where it stems from. The bill, whether you support it or don't, is S459, and so you can write to your email, write. Yeah, people still writing letters. Send an email or tweet or whatever. Um, to your representatives about that bill or any we ever talk about on the show. All right, that'll do it for this episode. I again hope you had an awesome weekend. I hope your Monday is off to a good start and your week is flying by already, and it's a good one for you. I want to thank you all for listening. If you want to support, please like and subscribe to this podcast. Leave a review if you can on the platform you listen to. It would be a great help to me. You can also vote in Best of Charleston, as I mentioned at the top of the show. You can help Holy City Center in two additional ways by going to holycitycenter.com/shop and picking up some merchandise, or going to patreon.com/holycitycenter. I also need to thank Lindsay Marie Collins of LMC Sound System and FMB Radio for producing each and every episode of this podcast. I especially appreciate her these last few episodes because I'm sure, and I know actually from seeing her Instagram stories, that she's been doing wine and food events like many other people in this town, and not just going for fun. She's, also, I think I saw emceeing and doing some fun things like that. So busy, working. So I know she is probably exhausted from the weekend, and I appreciate her, fitting in the podcast and getting it ready for you all this Monday morning. Also want to thank Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode of this podcast. You'll hear from me again on Wednesday. I'm already looking forward to it. Until then, good night and good luck.